El Salvador is in the grip of the worst violence in a decade. Gangs are changing the way they operate and are using children to kill.
En mi lugar, lo que hago es ir a postear.
Her job is to find out who their rivals are.
A mí me toca ir a pegar, va.
His job is to go and kill them. Children as young as 12 are both killers and victims in this war. There's a man behind us here who's crying and he's saying he was just a little boy. Being recruited by the gangs. The problem is that gang members are young and the law is lenient, too lenient, on young people. Despite the army presence, the mood was tense. We've been trying to talk to locals here, but nobody's prepared to talk to us on camera because they say there are still gang members operating here, and if they're seen talking to us, one woman said, "I'll be shot dead." We were told that some families had been forced to flee their homes to protect their children from the gangs. This is gang graffiti, and it says, "Look, listen, and keep your mouth shut." Underneath, there are skulls, and that's sending out a very clear message to people who live here. With reports of children being targeted, we wanted to talk to young people about life in gang-controlled neighborhoods. There are hundreds of boys who've been forced into hiding across the city simply because they didn't want to join the gangs. We've managed to track down a group who are willing to talk to us. They arranged to meet us in a back alley near to a charity safe house where they'd been given refuge. How old are boys when gangs start putting pressure on you to join?
12, 14 años, porque los agarran desde pequeños para escuelarlos bien.
He says that gangs start pressurizing boys as young as 12 and even younger so they can indoctrinate them to be big-time gangsters. What happened to you when you told the gangs you didn't want to join?
¿Cómo se llama? Yo les dije, ¿verdad?, que no me iba a unir. Entonces me rodearon tres y me golpearon.
The boy said he'd been beaten so badly his arm was broken. And then they started slipping notes under his door every day, telling him if you don't join, you're going to be killed.
Fuimos a la tienda y unos mareros nos dispararon.
His friend said that he and his mother had even been shot at by the gangs while they were out shopping. That was the turning point. He was absolutely terrorized and living in fear that night that he'd be killed, and then that's when he escaped.
Quizás le cortan partes del cuerpo y los van a perder.
Al ratito pasó un carro.
All the boys said they couldn't bear to think about what would happen if the gangs found them. They've each told me they've had so many friends who've been killed by the gangs. And this guy here with the white T-shirt has said that they shoot you and sometimes they mutilate you, they chop up your bodies. And this guy was with two of his friends when they were shot in a drive-by shooting by gangs. We wanted ground. We've been trying to talk to young gang members for the past week, but we haven't got anywhere, till finally a gang contact has told us that there may be some young gang members willing to talk to us in the north of the city, and that's where we're going now. We were entering gang-controlled territory. We'd been given strict instructions not to film any members' faces and to keep our time to a minimum. 8 bodies were recently found dumped in this area. The 18th Street gang were believed to be responsible. We've just been given the go-ahead to get out of the car, and I can see 3 young boys standing by a tree. Hola.
Hola.
Mucho gusto.
Mucho gusto.
Me llamo Ramita.
Mucho gusto.
Mucho gusto. Vámonos. Gracias. Members of the 18 gang met us. They are a tightly controlled hierarchy, and only leaders can grant permission to talk. We were told to follow the boys into the local leader's house. He was just 17 years old. He showed us his gang tattoo. He then summoned 2 of the group's foot soldiers, Small, who was 14 years old, and Dole, who was 16. What are your jobs? What are your roles within the gang?
En mi lugar, lo que hago es ir a postear.
They told us that she gathers information on rivals and he kills them. How old were you when you killed your first rival?
Nah, yo no tenía miedo ahí, solo llegué ahí, y le pegué, va.
Small said that he'd first killed when he was 12.
En la cabeza le pegaba yo, va.
It was the day he joined the gang. He says he wasn't scared. He shot his rival fell down and he shot him in his head, and he said his head was a complete mess because I sprayed it with bullets. A member produced one of the guns they use. With the army and police on the streets, they only carry weapons when they're on a mission to kill. You can see that he knows how to use it. He just cocked it. And he looks so young. He looks like a little boy.
Modo, hay que hacerlo porque él es o soy yo y mi modo.
Doll's loyalty was unwavering. She says if she was told to kill by an older gang member, of course she would do it. And it's them or us. We have to defend ourselves against the rivals.
Día por los policías, va, que lo paran a uno y va, se lo llevan.
Small told us that neither of them have tattoos, so if they're caught, one day you may be killed.
Nah, todos modos para eso.
He said that the gang is what he lives for and what he'll die for. They're not scared of the police, they're not scared of killing, they're not scared of getting killed, and they're laughing, talking about killing people, and this is what makes them so dangerous. They're totally fearless. Our time was up. As we were leaving, the children told us that many of their parents are working in America. But the recession there has hit El Salvadoran families who rely on money being sent back. We met Gertrudes Cortez at the cemetery where she'd been told her daughter is buried. A warden was helping her find the grave. This was the first time she'd been here. Her daughter had been so badly beaten she Gertrudes still doesn't know exactly how Raquel was killed. She was too distraught to take it in when the prosecutor explained it to her. She saw photos of her daughter's dead body at the morgue, and she saw how her daughter had been tortured, how her body was contorted.
Puede hacer uno nada, porque estar con aquel miedo que le puedan hacer algo.
Her daughter had been hanging around with the gangs. Gertrudes said she would not be asking the police to investigate. She says when there's a gang killing in the neighborhood, nobody says a word, nobody goes to the police, everybody's too scared. And that's why she's not seeking justice for her daughter, because they may come after her or her family and kill them. There are hundreds of mass graves across the country where thousands of unidentified bodies are buried. Finally, what Gertrudes had been waiting for. The warden found Raquel's grave. It's unmarked. It's just this plot of land. There are 7 other bodies in here, and she can't afford to give her a proper burial. She can't afford a grave of her own. And she's just saying,